So first of all, tell me what's the situation like there in the States now with the coronavirus and everything going on.
I mean, it's kind of loose. It's actually a lot of cities starting to open back up.
Hmm.
So it's not as strict as some of the places in Europe, but everybody has their rules and regulations for what's going on. But I think right now it's more about the economy over here. I don't think the safety is a priority. It's more, trying to get the economy back right. So they're
Hmm.
starting to open things up. Like here in Atlanta, I'm in Atlanta right now. They're opening up most businesses. Still,
Hmm.
you still have to follow some regulations and restrictions, but a lot of things are open.
So in terms of safety wise, it's better than it was in Barcelona and in Europe.
No, I just think the people in Europe are taking it more seriously. I
Hmm.
don't, I don't. I'm not a politician. I'm not big on
Yeah.
politics, but I think what Europe is doing, and most of the countries in Europe did, along with China and some of the other countries, I think they're doing the right things. I don't think anything should really be open right now
Hmm.
in the States. But like I said, it's all about money. So that's something different.
Tell me about your daily schedule now. I've seen that you've uploaded some, workout videos on Instagram. You do some Instagram live videos as well. What do your workouts consist of right now?
For me, mainly just a lot of stretching, cardio, a lot of core work. Just try to stay in some type of rhythm. Then, I have a basketball court at my house, so I'm able to, at least go shoot. I know a lot of
Hmm.
people haven't even been able,
Yeah.
to pick up a basketball. So me, just trying to make sure I have that energy.
Hmm.
I'm saying, keeping my legs right, and just staying as fit as possible. I can't really do a basketball workout like I want, but now
Yeah.
I think a lot of gyms here are starting to open up. So at least I can, get in the gym with my trainer soon.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of beneficial for me being here because I can do a lot more than just, stay in my apartment or, my house in
Yeah.
Barcelona.
Yeah.
I have access to a lot more.
Hmm. How different do you feel now? In fact, the fact that you're staying at home. It's April. You're not playing basketball, and you're just sitting at home in quarantine all day. How different is it compared to the other years that you were in Europe playing?
Uh, you know, for me, it's not that difficult because last year from China, I came home in February. So, I was home early. The year
Hmm.
before that in Atlanta, I had ankle surgery in April. So I had a long gap from April until the end of September when I left for China.
Yeah.
And then, the previous year was Atlanta. We made the playoffs. But the year before that, also with Locomotive, we finished after the Final Four. So the last 4 years pretty much have been, kind of like this for me. So it's not that much different. And as I get older, it just gives me opportunity to focus on some other things besides basketball.
Hmm. In general, how much time do you think? No, actually, how do you think the coronavirus pandemic will affect sports in general, like long term and short term? Because like fans, we don't know when they will start attending games again.
I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody knows my perspective on this, but
Yeah.
I mean, for the short term, I don't think anybody should be playing team sports right now. I think when you look at, I've seen some things like UFC, some of those type of sports where it's just one-on-one, where they do uh, extensive testing, uh, you know, all types of testing before they even have to participate in a normal fight. I think those are more realistic, to happen. When you talk about team sports with basketball, I mean, it's not just the 15 players on the team. You have coaches, you have staff. We have to travel. It's too many things that goes into play for us to feel safe. And I can speak for myself, and I could say that you can't just make that happen overnight.
Hmm.
So for the short term, I don't think anything should be happening right now. But as far as long term, I think that we probably will start next season with no fans. And, from everything I'm seeing, probably until, at least 2021, that next
Hmm.
year will be affected like that. And we won't be playing in front of fans. So my biggest thing is I don't really care about the money and the contracts. If we could play and everybody feels safe, and then that's fine. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, I can't play if I don't feel safe. I'm not sure what everybody else would do, but just from myself, I want to make sure everything is, in order before we even think about playing or practicing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how much time do you think, it will take in order for you to like high five your friend, hug your friend or stuff like that? Because, the situation is pretty strange right now where you can't even do that. You can't even do the simple things.
Yeah, it's that only time will tell. Really, we don't know. For like I said, these are some things that we just can't control, and you can't say, okay, don't shake hands, but you can play basketball. Like everybody has to share the basketball. Like it's not possible. So if those are rules that people are putting into play, and that's something we have to live by, then when you look at sports, everything is contact. We have to, we're in the same locker rooms. We ride the same buses and planes. Uh, you know, some teams have roommates when they travel. So it's a lot of other things that go into it besides just getting on the court and playing. And I think that's what a lot of fans are missing. They think we just get on the court and play, and then you can watch us on TV, and then everything will be okay. But that's far from the truth.
Mm-hmm. The last few months have been, challenging for everyone, but almost 40 days ago, if I'm not wrong, you were in a pretty unique situation yourself. On March 19, the State Department issued an announcement for all Americans who were working abroad at the time to return back home as soon as possible. And in the following days, most American basketball players in Europe decided to return to the States. You also returned back home at the time. In my opinion, it was a reasonable decision. As an American, who was working in Europe and who has his family back in the States, how did it feel when the U.S. State Department announced and basically ordered something like that?
Well, like you said, when they ordered that, it was pretty much a no-brainer for me. This is something new to everybody. So everybody, nobody knew how to handle these situations. But if our government tells us if you're living abroad that you need to get back to the States or you could possibly get stuck, for me,
Yeah, for many months.
Yeah, it's not. I didn't even have to think much about that, and it was a difficult situation. But on my end, I just wanted to make sure that I was good. I was going to be in Barcelona by myself, and I think initially everybody was just going on 2-week schedules. It was like, okay, maybe in 2 weeks we can play, but I didn't truly believe that in 2 weeks anything was going to happen. So I looked at it long term. I'm not going to, I can't sit in Barcelona for a month or 2 months in a house by myself where I can't really train. I don't have my family or anything like that. Everybody else on the team has kids or, they have their families with them. And I was the only one, there by myself. So once that order came out, it was just simple for me. I thought I would feel more comfortable at home. If I was going to get stuck anywhere, I would rather be stuck in my own house, where I have more freedom to work out. I can train. I have access to my family if I need. I have my chef here. And, like I said, I can come home and take care of some other things that are also more important than basketball.
Yeah, of course, of course. Let's talk a little bit about basketball, and I'll take you back through your career, starting with your childhood days at Baltimore, Maryland. Describe growing up in Baltimore and falling in love with the game of basketball. I know you played also football.
Yeah,
American football.
So American football was actually my first love, my first sport. So I always wanted to be a football player, but everybody's looking at Jordan now. Like Jordan and Michael, my father was a big Michael Jordan fan.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything in our house, we had Jordan statues, every Jordan DVD or like we had everything. So growing up, I fell in love with Jordan and basketball. Then it was Allen Iverson. So, it was always the show. Basketball was more flashy. The lifestyle of basketball was a little bit better from what we've seen. So, that's what made me gravitate towards basketball. And, as I got older, basketball kind of became my main sport. And once I got 14, I decided to stop playing football and focus on basketball. And that's when I received my first college scholarship offer. And once I got my first basketball offer, then, you know, my focus was strictly on basketball. I left football behind, and then, you know, the rest is history.
So at 14, you stopped playing football.
Yeah, 14, I stopped. And, you know, everything just went forward with basketball from there.
How do you describe your years at Virginia Tech University? What are some of your, you know, fondest moments from your time there? Because you stayed for years.
Yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech for me was good because, you know, going in as a freshman, I got an opportunity to play. The main reason I went there is because, you know, they had some guys. I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know Jamon Gordon. He played, you know, high level Europe. He was graduating when I was coming in, and, you know, they had some pretty important pieces at the guard position leaving, and I really chose Virginia Tech because I knew I would get in and have opportunity to play immediately. So, you know, once I went in as a freshman, I didn't start, I think, maybe the first 8 games. And, you know, things weren't going too well. And then, you know, coach, I think we played in New York at the Garden for a holiday tournament. And the coach told me that I would, you know, be starting from then on. So from like the 9th game until, you know, I graduated, you know, I started, had a decent freshman year. And then freshman to sophomore year is when I really, really took off in college. You know, I went from averaging 9 to 18. And that's what really, when people really started to pay attention to me. And that summer was my biggest summer. You know, I worked extremely hard in the gym. I wanted to put on a little bit more weight. And I knew that, you know, that everybody was going to be dependent on me a little bit more going into my sophomore year. So I really, really started taking basketball serious, you know, my sophomore year in college. Because, you know, I seen NBA was possible.
Yeah.
You know, making money over Europe was possible. And that's when I really, really locked in.
And after your senior year, after you graduated, you entered, in fact, the 2011 NBA draft, but eventually you went undrafted. What was going through your mind at that time?
Honestly, I didn't care about the draft. I had one thing about my career is I have a great agent, Andrew Vi, and I put my name in the draft my junior year, but I was hurt. That's when I first injured my ankle, and I wasn't able, you know, to go through the draft process because of an injury. And they changed the dates for early entries back then. So we only had 2 or 3 weeks to work out for teams before we could pull our names out. And literally, that was the only year they did that. So I didn't really have an opportunity to stay in the draft. And once I decided to go back to school, you know, I had some people in my corner who taught me the business side of it. So my whole senior year, I knew that it was a lockout coming. A lot of people didn't know. So I was prepared. So, you know, when I signed with my agent after the season, he told me, you know, it's going to be a lockout. There's not going to be any NBA basketball. We don't know how long. So our plan is to sign a deal in Europe, you know, to get you some money, because I didn't have any money when I graduated college. And, you know, we'll go from there. So that was my plan. When I went into the draft, I knew it was possible, but I wasn't banking on getting drafted. And even if I did get drafted, I was going to go to Europe to Cologne to play. So I signed my deal with Cologne before the draft. So I really didn't care.
So you were prepared during your senior year that next year you're gonna play in Europe.
Yep.
Okay. So and then after you arrived in France and played for Chalon, how did that feel when, you know, an American goes overseas to fulfill his basketball dream and continue working?
For me, the first 3 months was pretty difficult because, you know, like I said, I was prepared to go to Europe, but I didn't really want to be in Europe. You know, I thought I did enough to play in the NBA. So my plan was really just to go to Europe to buy time and then come back home and play in the NBA. But, you know, when I got there, the only thing I knew about France was Paris. So I'm thinking that, you know, we're going to be close to Paris. I'm going to be able to hang out in Paris. And, you know, my initial flight was into Paris. So I just thought we were going to be close. And then once they took the drive, we just kept driving further and further away from Paris. And then we got to this small town. And, you know, for me, they literally brought me there. I went to my apartment. The next day, they gave me a car, which was a stick. I never drove a stick before. They didn't teach me how to drive it.
Wow.
It was the oldest car on the team. It was like the car was bad. And then, you know, going into like grocery stores and stuff like that, I didn't understand. Nobody spoke English. So they basically kind of just put me in, like, just put me in the city and I had to pretty much figure it out for myself. So probably the first 3 months, I was calling my agent every day, like, yo, like, I don't
Wow.
know, like, you know, I don't know if I could do this. But the only thing that was good there was the basketball. You know, the coach, we had a good coach, and I had a good group of teammates who had won the cup the previous year, so they were ambitious to try to win a championship.
Wow.
And, you know, basketball was the only thing. I literally played basketball, came home, and played Call of Duty, like, every day. So the one thing about Europe and my mentality was just to try to get better on the court, and that's what saved me.
So many times in your mind you were like, "That's it. I'm gonna go back to the States." There was a time where you were like, "I'm gonna give up and return back home," or you would
Yeah,
just remain.
yeah. Like I said, the only thing that kept me, and I think
Yeah.
I appreciate this being my first year. The only thing that kept me there was the fact that we were winning.
Yeah.
You know, we had a good team. If the basketball was bad there, or say I went into a situation where they weren't paying on time, or I probably would have left,
Yeah.
went to the D
Yeah.
League, or, you know, try to get to the NBA sooner. But
Hmm.
the fact that, you know, I didn't have to worry about anything on the business side, we were winning. I had a good group of teammates and a coach that I really liked.
Hmm.
I didn't really care about the town or the city that we were in. Like, you know, the
Yeah.
boredom, it really made me focus on basketball. So
Hmm.
literally it was only basketball, talking to my family, and, you know, restarting that every day. So it was fun on the basketball side, but, you know, the life outside of that was just, it was boring.
Hmm. You mentioned winning, and I was looking throughout your career, and especially your 5 years in Europe before you went to the NBA and played for the Hawks. That you won pretty much everywhere you went. I have noted down some of the some of the things you have accomplished. And in France, you won both the French Cup and the French League. In Ukraine, with the Budevin League, you won the league title and you were named the MVP. In Germany with Bayern, you won regular season MVP, finals MVP, and the title. And in Russia with Lokomotiv, you led the team to the EuroLeague Final Four. All the teams I mentioned, for those who don't know, were considered underdogs in their respective leagues. But you found a way, to win MVP trophies and championships. How do you explain that?
You know, I take pride, and that's going back to college. You know, I take pride in beating the better teams. You know, I know the European mentality. Teams want you to play for the biggest name or the teams that have the best history. Like, for me, I don't care. You know, I feel like if I'm put in a position to be successful and you put a group of guys that's as hungry to win around me as I am, we're going to win. I don't care what name is on the jersey. I don't, you know, I had a lot of opportunities to play for big name clubs, and I decided not to because it didn't feel right for me. You know, I don't think it would make me happy just by playing for a big name team
Mm-hmm.
when I could go somewhere else and beat them. And I think, you know, my first, like you said, in France, Elan Chalon wasn't a powerhouse. We didn't have the most money in France, like none of that. And we went in and we overtook France that year. And you go second year, Budavelnik, you had Azamaj and Donetsk, who were the two big money teams in Ukraine. Uh, we overtook them.
Yeah.
Also, we went to the Euro Cup Final Four. You know, from a team that did nothing. I took them. Well, not I, but the team.
Yeah.
I led them to a Euro Cup Final Four. Even in France, my first year, we went to the Euro Challenge final and lost to Besiktas, which was
Mm-hmm.
a Euro League level team. And then going to Munich, you know, Munich wasn't a powerhouse. You know,
Yeah, of course.
It was Bamberg and Alba Berlin. So when we got to Munich, you know, the first thing for us, our goal was to beat Bamberg. And crazy, we played Bamberg the first game of the season. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that game set the tone for Germany. When we beat Bamberg, then everybody looked at us like, okay, Munich is serious. And, you know, we got to the top 16 for the first year in EuroLeague ever. And
Mm-hmm.
we were 1 or 2 games away from the playoffs. And the team who knocked us out was Maccabi. And
Yeah.
they eventually won EuroLeague. So, you know, after that year, you know, I had the opportunity to go to the NBA. But LeBron was a free agent that summer. And LeBron literally held up the whole free agent market. Like, nobody would make a decision until LeBron made his decision.
Yeah.
So for me, you know, Europe, all the teams, they want the best players to sign early. So I think that summer it was Galatasaray, Olympiacos, and Lokomotiv. Those were the three teams who, you know, were my top three. And I actually committed to play for Galatasaray. Like, they wanted to give me a Turkish passport. Adamant, he really wanted me. And it was me and Keith Langford that they were trying to decide on. So I said, okay, you know, I like this coach. I like what he does with the guards. I told my agent, I'm like, look, out of those three teams, I'm going to Galatasaray. And you know, it wasn't for the most money. It was Lokomotiv was the highest in money, and Galatasaray was right in the middle. And I decided Galatasaray. But 2 or 3 days later, they called back and said, you know, we're not sure about the money. We have to go to the board and figure out what we're going to do financially. And right after that call, I talked to my agent. I was like, something don't seem right about this. And, you know, Lokomotiv, I started doing more research on Lokomotiv, and everybody told me nothing but positive things. And we had just played there in EuroLeague the year before with Munich, and I seen that their crowd, I seen how serious they took everything. They just had won Euro Cup, and they had a plan to be a big name EuroLeague team. So when I decided to do that, you know, I knew we would play Euro Cup the first year, but I knew the second year that we would be EuroLeague.
Yeah.
So that was just, it was a bigger plan, but people don't know that I actually, you know, I actually wanted to go to Galatasaray.
You almost signed with Galatasaray, yeah. Did you consider Olympiacos at all or no?
At that time, it was an option, but you know, it was a lot of other things behind the scenes, and that's why I respect the coach Barazakh, because he kept everything honest with me. And you know, back then it just didn't fit, and then you know he ended up leaving. So, you know, it wouldn't have worked out anyway.
Speaking of Coach Barazakh, Eurohoops' editor-in-chief and your good friend Nikos Varlas told me that during your years in Lokomotiv, the major characteristic that Coach Barazakh loved about your game was the way you approached the game, meaning that you always started the game, you know, getting your teammates involved. And when it was needed, you took the game over with your scoring ability, and we've seen that this year as well in some games against Panathinaikos, etc. In fact, at times he told me that he was telling you to shoot, and you were replying that you need to get everyone involved first, and that was the way that you led an underdog, let's say, team to the EuroLeague Final Four. Can you describe the way that you approach the game of basketball and what goes through your mind when you're on the court?
Yeah, so like Coach said, he got mad. Like literally when I first signed there and he came in, I never shot the ball in practice. So like literally, like I would go practices with I still do it sometimes, and coaches always get mad at me. But like the first, probably in training camp, I never shoot the ball. And coach is like, yo, we need you to shoot the ball. Why won't you take that shot? But they don't understand, like, when I play with certain players, I like to study their tendencies. So if I'm playing with, you know, that year in Lokomotiv, I had, you know, I knew Anthony Randolph because I played with him. But we had Chris Singleton coming in. We had Ryan Brokoff coming in. Eventually it was Matt Janning. And we had a whole new group of guys. And, you know, my only thing was I can't be as good as I can unless everybody around me feels comfortable playing with me. So I want to know where Ryan wants to shoot threes from. I want to know, you know, where Chris is best at, where Anthony can score his best at. So I take that first training camp month studying my teammates. I know what I can do. I'm confident that I can score. Everybody knows what I can do offensively, but that doesn't work if my teammates aren't involved. So, you know, when coach came with me, he just expected me to just from day one try to take over and start scoring. But, you know, preseason is, I think, to get better and make sure your teammates are confident going into regular season. And I think nobody thought that our team would be good in Lokomotiv, but everybody from that team went on to sign big contracts with big name EuroLeague teams. And it was all because everybody trusted each other. And also because we trusted Coach Barazakh. He put the ball in my hands, and I took responsibility. And that's just, you know, when I'm at my best.
Do you feel that the fans know that side of you? Like, do you feel that they have underestimated you maybe as a teammate or getting your teammates involved?
Yeah, they don't have a clue. I think fans just look at, when we talk online, we talk about business. They look at, oh, he wants to sign the biggest contract. It's money. It's money. Like, yeah, I demand, compensation because you don't know how much I put into basketball. Like every day in practice or, the stuff I do with my teammates, the fans would never have a clue. So, they don't get to see behind the scenes stuff. So when you say, you talk to coach and he tells you stuff like that, you can just ask the people who play with me. Like you talk to anybody who play with me, everybody at the end of the season always tells me how much they love playing with me. I've never had a teammate that, I didn't like playing with or said that I was selfish or anything like that. So I take more pride in doing, some of that stuff than I don't care about what people think on the outside that don't really know what goes into everyday grind. But it's just good that, like you said, you talked to coach and he respected that.
Yeah. We know obviously you have a great relationship with Coach Barazakh and that the respect is mutual. Can you assess him as a coach? Can you describe his skill set?
The best thing about him is that he understands the players. He doesn't have the typical European mentality when it comes to dealing with a team. He gave us freedom as well as demanded his respect and structure. And I think when you coaching a bunch of grown men coming from different countries, different situations, you have to be like that. Like I think a lot of coaches try to get stuck in certain ways where they don't want to adapt to the players. And I think the best thing about Coach was he had our backs with anything. And for me, the respect came when he signed in Lokomotiv. I flew to Russia, and the day I flew to Russia, they told me that they didn't have the money for my contract. Like, so as soon as I got to Russia, they told me, if you have another contract, you can take that. We want to cut the budget. We don't have the money to pay you. I actually was going to sign in Shanghai in China. And this is another story a lot of people don't know. So I had a deal with Shanghai in China. Literally, I was going to sign the next morning, and Coach Barazakh called me like 7:30 in the morning because the club didn't tell him about not having the money to pay my contract. Wow. So when he called me, he told me, why do you want to leave? I came here. I took this job because you were here. I built the team around you. Why would you want to leave? And I said, well, I don't want to leave. They told me that they don't have the money to pay me. I was like, they didn't tell you? And he was like, no. So Coach Barazakh had no idea about what was going on because I wasn't practicing. Like, the first 3 practices I didn't go to just because we were trying to figure out contract situation. And Coach was like, listen, give me 2 hours. Don't make any decisions. Don't sign any contracts. Just give me 2 hours and just be patient. So Coach literally went to the GM and, to the owners and told them, if y'all let Malcolm leave, I'm leaving too. So if Malcolm goes, I go. And, they called me back and was like, well, we figured out a way to get the money. Everything is good. And that's when I gained respect for Coach Barazakh. So people think it's just basketball. Like my respect came to him like before the season even started. This was before we started a practice or anything. He told the team, if Malcolm's not here, I'm not coaching. And, he changed that whole perspective. And that's how he got the respect of the team too. Like he did that a lot. He didn't care about anything besides the players and basketball. So it wasn't just how he let me play or anything. It was bigger than that.
Great story. And now, after obviously your successful 2 years in Lokomotiv with Coach Barazakh, you got your shot at the NBA with the Atlanta Hawks. During your first year, you averaged 17 minutes per game, and the team made the playoffs. In fact, you guys had a 43-39 record. You were the 5th seed. You individually had some great games. In your second year, however, the team struggled. You finished last in the Eastern Conference, and eventually your contract in the summer ended. What went wrong with your time with the Hawks?
I don't think it's a business, and I don't want to. First, my second year, it was the wrong place at the wrong time. They didn't want to win. Everybody knew they were trying to get draft picks. They want, the strategy first year was to win. we had a nice opportunity to get past the Wizards and probably get to the Eastern Conference Final, but it didn't work. So the second year, I was told that the roster was wide open. Only Dennis Schroeder had, guaranteed minutes. Everybody else was playing for minutes. So, I stayed with Atlanta that whole summer. I was in the best shape of my life. I probably that summer was the best player that stayed and developed. And going into the season, I felt good. And preseason, I was playing 25 minutes, I think. Played well in the preseason, but, it was the front office. They decided that they wanted to get young. So we started signing a lot of D-League players. We didn't really want to win. It wasn't about winning that year. And I kind of got caught up at that time. I tried to get out. I wanted to get traded somewhere where I could play. We had actually, Houston wanted to do something, but eventually it didn't work out. So I ended up staying in Atlanta. And, then I re-injured my ankle. And once I re-injured my ankle, we weren't trying to win. I wasn't going to risk my health to try to do anything there. So I decided to get surgery on my own. And then, when I did get the surgery, they told me that everybody loved me there. It was an opportunity for me to come back, but they didn't sign me to an extension. So, after that season, I just wanted to play basketball. So I didn't really care where it was. I just wanted to get my confidence back and fall in love with the game again.
During that summer in 2018, were there any other NBA offers that, you considered or decided to turn down and then eventually ended up going in China?
Well, I had opportunity to go in with Cleveland. See, the thing was, when I went to, and another thing most people don't know, when I went to Atlanta, I took a pay cut. So when I left Europe, I probably was the top guard in Europe. After that Final Four season, probably was like me and DeColo. So I had a crazy offer. I had crazy offers on the table when I left Locomotive. The same Chinese team I went to after offered me like $2.5 million for 6 months before I took the Atlanta job. So I turned down a lot of money to go to Atlanta. So once I left Atlanta, I didn't like playing basketball. It was just the 2 years didn't go as I expected. The second year we were losing. I'm not used to losing at all. I care about winning a lot, and we just weren't winning. So I fell out of love with the game. And my point of going to China was, first, I was injured. I wanted to get healthy. Second, I wanted to get my confidence back. That was the only two things. I just wanted to prepare myself to come home, and get ready for the next summer and try to get back in the NBA. And I had kind of opportunity with Milwaukee. I worked out for them. But, it was some contract issues, and Paul Gasol decided to stay. So that didn't work out. So everything I went to China for was what I got. I did it for a reason, and it worked out for me. I got my confidence back. I got healthy, and it put me in a position last summer to either go to the NBA or come back to Europe and play at a high level.
Since you played there with the current head coach of the Bucks, Coach Budenholzer, what do you think of his coaching abilities? Do you feel like he could, along with his coaching staff, help Giannis develop his game and then obviously win the ultimate goal, which is an NBA championship?
Yeah, I think actually they may have the best group of coaches for skill development. So that's the perfect, if it's any, coaching staff that he wants to play for, the best thing about Bud and his coaching staff, they're the best when it comes to skill development. So, him shooting more threes and some of the stuff that he's doing, like they work with that. I mean, they work with him on that every day. Like, that's the one thing I respected about those guys. They really, really push skill development. So I honestly think if they can get hot at the right time or they get one more piece, he definitely could get a ring because of the style of play and, the type of system that they have built around him.
Obviously, last summer, after your experience in China and after you returned from China, we thought that you would have stayed in China or returned back to the NBA. How did Barcelona come in the mix? Then you eventually ended up coming back and playing in Europe's highest level.
Well, I didn't. I wasn't going to come back to Europe. Like, my plan was, it was NBA or back to China. So,
Hmm.
and that was just because the length of the season. I like the fact in China that you just play basketball. Some of, it is politics in China, but if you play well, you kind of avoid some of that stuff. And it gave me more time at home, with my family.
Hmm.
But, you know, once the season in China was over, I had an opportunity. I went up to New York. I worked out with the Knicks for a week. I thought I did really well there. They were, interested in doing something with me, but they didn't offer anything. And then right before I signed with Barcelona, I went to Golden State, and I did a free agent workout with them. I thought I
Hmm.
did really well there. They loved me there, but they weren't in a rush. And like I said, how Europe works,
Yeah.
uh, they were kind of they started calling when I went to Golden State. Barcelona was like calling me every day. They wanted to get something done. I
Hmm.
still didn't want to come back to Europe. I just didn't want to come. I was kind of tired of Europe and how long the season was, how demanding it was. So I was waiting around on the NBA. My plan was to wait.
Hmm.
Once Golden State called back, they said, "Yeah, we really love you. We want to have one more free agent workout next week, and then we'll decide." But Barcelona wanted to get something done at the time.
Hmm.
And when I looked at Barcelona's roster and what they did, Barcelona had offered me a long-term deal before I went to the NBA. So
Hmm.
we were already familiar with Barcelona. I just thought, the best way for me to get back into the NBA or, to get back at the highest level was if I went to Barcelona and we could get to a Final Four and possibly win a EuroLeague. So that's ultimately what got me back to Barcelona. I liked what they did with the roster. I wanted to come back and play at a high level and show people that, my value was still where it was before when I left Europe.
Hmm. Overall, how satisfied are you with your team's efforts this year? Do you feel like if EuroLeague would have happened, you could have gone all the way and win the EuroLeague title?
Yeah, for sure. I think we were in third place or tied for however you want to put it, and we still weren't playing great. Like we
Hmm.
didn't. We had a couple good games, but we were just starting to get into a rhythm. When all of this stuff happened. We had a couple win streaks, but we still were trying to figure everything out.
Hmm.
Thomas still wasn't healthy. He came back and then got hurt again. Pangos still, we didn't have
Yeah.
Pangos. And we had injuries throughout the season with a lot of different players, but that's the same with a lot of other EuroLeague teams. But just speaking from our own perspective, we weren't playing at 100%. And I think once we got to 90, 95, that nobody could beat us. I think in one game we could lose, but
Hmm.
in a series, I don't think we could lose in a series, in a 5-game series.
Hmm. What about the Spanish league? Given the fact that Real Madrid has won the last two Spanish league titles.
Same. I don't think, like I said, in a series, I don't think we could lose. Like when you get
Hmm.
to a Final Four or anything like that, the right team could just get hot. You could lose
Yep.
one game or whatever, and it depends on matchups. If when we're talking about ACB, when you got to play a series, especially if we had home court going into the playoffs, I don't see us losing. I
Hmm.
don't. I don't think anybody could beat us in a 5-game series.
Hmm. That's what happened in the Spanish Cup, and you were eliminated by Valencia. What do you think went wrong there?
We just didn't play our style of basketball. We didn't play how we were capable of. And we played Valencia a lot. They made the right adjustment at the right time. Like I said, one game we picked the wrong game to play bad, and we came back at the end. We made it a game. We had opportunity, to win the game, but they played better than us, and that was on one day. But like we beat them 4 or 5 times previously. At some point, they're going to make some kind of correction. They have a great coach and they have a great team, and like I said, they just played their best game against us on the right day. And but in the series, I don't see us losing 3 games.
Hmm. In all of your previous European teams, you've had the primary team leader role. Do you think you could do the same for Barcelona and turn into the team's game changer? In other words, do you feel like you could be the one who is going to lead this team back to its glory days in the EuroLeague and the Spanish league?
Yeah, I think so. That's when I'm at my best when I have more responsibility. You know, this year I came in late. They already had the team. you know, I wasn't expecting to be the leader of the team. I came in and tried to just fill in my role. You know, Nico, we had to go through Nico. He's probably the best player in Europe. You know, and like I said, they had their team already. I didn't go to training camp. You know, they had already had a month in with each other before I got there. So my goal this year, you know, Thomas was hurt. I had to fill in for Thomas. I just wanted to come in and fit in with the team. If I had to, you know, score sometimes, I did it, but I didn't try to do too much. But everybody knows when the ball's in my hands or, you know, I get more responsibility that I play well. And I think that we would be a lot better, you know, in that type of situation. So I definitely agree with that.
Yep.
And, you know, that would just be another responsibility I would have to put on my shoulder.
Is Barcelona the biggest organization you've played for, given the fact, given its global appeal with soccer, obviously?
Yeah. I mean, I could say yeah by the numbers, but I think when I played with Bayern Munich that year, they had the best. They won Champions League, and I think the German national team won. What was the World Cup that year?
Yeah, the World Cup.
So it was a lot different. But as far as day to day in Barcelona, when you see the tours going around in the football stadium and stuff like that, of course the name is bigger. But I think that year in Munich was crazy because the soccer team was so good, and like when it was playoff time in basketball, the World Cup was going on for soccer. So the whole city literally was, you know, every restaurant had the games playing outside. I'd never seen anything like that, but for sure, Barcelona is the biggest name club organization I play for.
Have you visited the Camp Nou? Have you watched Lionel Messi play?
We went to one. I went to one game, but the seats were bad, so I left at halftime. So I didn't. We had bad seats. I didn't go. I mean, I'm not a big soccer fan. I appreciate, like, living in Europe. I learned to appreciate, you know, the skill level of, you know, why everybody watches soccer.
Yeah.
But I can't follow it. I'm not one of the players who plays FIFA or
Yeah.
I don't.
That's because you don't understand it or you don't like it.
No, I understand it. It's just not for me. I'd rather watch American football.
So obviously everything is now pending. You have a contract with Barcelona until the end of next season, but you can opt out until this June. What are your plans for the future? Do you want to stay in Barcelona and sign a contract extension?
I mean, yeah. When I signed, like, and this is another thing that people have to realize. Last year, when, like I said, I did not want to play in Europe. So when Barcelona came, you know, me and my agent wanted to structure a contract where we bet on me playing well. So, you know, we wanted to have a player option just in case, you know, if I did play well in Barcelona, it was a place that I could see myself playing for a long time, that we could restructure a long-term contract after this season. So that's why we signed a player option. Me signing a player option wasn't about anything but that. It's not selfish on my part. It's not anything against the club. We did that because I counted on myself playing well. And so we could be in a situation now where we talk about a long-term contract. So, yeah, I mean, you know, Barcelona is a great city. The fans, like, I've never been embraced by fans like the fans in Barcelona. And it's a good group of teammates. I like the teammates in Barcelona and the organization. So, yeah, it's definitely, you know, it's not just up to me. It's up to the club. It's up to me. It's up to coach. Of course, the fans want me there, and it definitely comes down to business as well. So, you know, I have to look out for when it comes to contract situations, you know, that's about me. Now, you know, when I get into a team atmosphere and it's about basketball, then I'm all about the team. But, you know, with situations like this with business, a lot of things have to come into play. So, you know, hopefully, you know, we'll talk about it and figure it out. Right now, you know, it's pretty much still the season. We haven't got to the point with the option declining or accepting it yet. So we'll see. I think over the next month or so, you know, Barcelona definitely wants me to be there, and we'll see what goes on past this point.
Eurohoops had recently reported that there's interest from two other EuroLeague teams, Olimpia Milano and Olympiacos. Is there anything more to that now?
Not really. I mean, like I said, I tweeted this. people confuse interest with
Yeah, of course,
actual
absolutely.
offer. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot of teams interested in me that I don't want to talk to, and it's crazy because last year Milan was interested in me, and I didn't even I just told him no. I didn't want to come to Europe. I spoke with Seska last year, and that was the only team that I really was even thinking about going to. And then they moved forward and went with Mike James because I didn't want to sign, and ended up being Barcelona. So interest, yeah, it's a lot of teams interested in me, but for me, it's only 3 or 4 teams that I would even play for in Europe that fits what I want. So yeah, the reports are accurate, but anything past that is nothing past that.
Mm-hmm. So before we get into the rapid fire questions, I'd like to ask you a question about defense, because over the years we've seen that, especially during the stretch, you have the ability of locking down defenders or opponents. Sorry, what do you think of yourself on the defensive side of the court?
Well, one, I think I'm very underrated, but I think that's one thing Atlanta helped me with. When I played for the Hawks, I wasn't going to be a star player, so I had to develop other things, and defense was a big thing for me. So it just developed. I always had good instincts, but I just didn't give 100% effort all the time, And I feel like if I'm put in the right situation, just like offense, if you put in the right situations defensively, you can show people, what good spots you have on that end of the floor as well. So, like I said, as I get older, I have to do different things than I did when I was younger, and just learning spots on the floor and being in the right places at the right time defensively has been a big goal for me going in, especially off seasons, just being in the right position. So I take pride in that. And like you said, it's really just about the challenge. When you're playing against one of the other top players, you want to win your battle. And that's where all that comes from.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's get quick into the rapid fire questions. I think you mentioned him, but best EuroLeague player.
You said the best who?
The best EuroLeague player right now. I think you mentioned Nikola Mirotic.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nico is the best player in EuroLeague, but I think Larkin had the best season. I think Larkin might have had the best season I've ever seen in EuroLeague. But I think the best player is Nico.
Mm-hmm. The toughest defender.
Adam Hanger.
The toughest player to guard.
Probably Larkin or Mike James.
Mm-hmm. The toughest arena to play at.
You broke up. What you say?
The toughest arena to play at.
Red Star.
Favorite European city to visit.
Barcelona, for sure.
Besides Barcelona? Barcelona?
Tel Aviv.
Mm-hmm. Favorite EuroLeague player to watch?
Probably Mike James.
This is a tough one. EuroLeague's best starting 5, excluding yourself and your teammates. Actually, you can have
without myself.
Without yourself, no.
No, I'll do it. I'll do it without teammates.
Brandon Davis just wrote favorite teammate.
Hey, Brandon, my guy. We both serial killers. That's my serial buddy. But nah, I'll go 5 without naming my teammates. I would say Larkin, Mike James. I would say Anthony Randolph. 3-man. Who's the best 3-man? I like, this is an underrated pick, but I like Kruno. Kruno is my guy. Kruno
Simon from FS.
And center, I would have this Eddie Tavares is definitely the best center outside of Barcelona. But Brandon is the best center.
And your favorite teammate?
All my teammates, man. I don't have a favorite. We have a good group of guys, man. We all get along.
Yeah. Who is the most clutch EuroLeague player?
I mean, if we're talking buzzer beaters, it would have to be Mike. He probably hit the most game-winning shots, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. It's your choice. I can't say.
No. I lied. Nico.
Mirotic.
Mirotic got to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my bad. Mike is my guy, but I forgot.
Yeah. One EuroLeague player you'd love to see in the NBA.
Leandro Balmero.
He will be probably, hopefully.
For sure, he'll get drafted.
Yeah. This is another what-if scenario. I posted that on Instagram yesterday. Would an elite EuroLeague team make the Eastern Conference playoffs?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. No.
Let me reverse that for you. Would all 30 NBA teams make the EuroLeague Final Four?
I think they would.
Wow. Another one.
Who's the worst team in the NBA right now? The Hawks.
I would say the Pistons right now, because of the Andre Drummond trade, would not make the Final Four, in my opinion.
I think they would.
I don't know. Let's go to another one. With which NBA player is your game similar?
Right now, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who you think?
I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, I haven't thought about it either. I know, like, the guys, like I said, right now I don't really look at guys, but guys before me, I always looked up to, like, Gilbert Arenas, like I said, Allen Iverson, Melo. I feel like, my mid-range game, I take a lot of stuff from Melo. Because I have a different game. I don't really have a game. I love shooting mid-range shots. So that's not really an NBA game right now. I think I kind of just steal stuff from a lot of different people.
What type of music do you listen to before a game?
Rap. I only listen to rap. So yeah, I put in, like, my playlist is on shuffle with a rap playlist.
Another what-if scenario: thumbs up or thumbs down on EuroLeague having an All-Star game?
I don't really personally. I don't care for All-Star. I've never played an All-Star game in my what is this? My 6th year in Europe. I've never played an All-Star game.
Wow, you were the first one out of the 4 episodes we've had so far. Shane Larkin, Kevin Panther, and Shaquille McKissick on. That you have said you're the only guy who turned it down and said no.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't care for All-Star games. That's just
thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up or thumbs down on getting rid of the Final Four format and following NBA's playoff format. Let's say best of 5 series, not best of 7.
Hold on, you said getting away from what?
Getting rid of the Final Four format, the EuroLeague's current format, and following NBA's playoff format, like having a best of 5 finals.
Well, I think if domestic leagues stay the same, I think it has to stay the same. But if the season was cut shorter with domestic leagues, I think a playoff series would be better for like a Final Four.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
Jordan first, then it was Allen Iverson, then like I said, Gilbert Arenas and Carmelo Anthony.
I've seen you on Twitter, so I'm not gonna ask LeBron or MJ. I know the answer. But why MJ? I'm with you, but why MJ for those who support LeBron?
I mean, I just think the impact Jordan had on the game, like the biggest thing for me is Jordan's mentality. I don't think it has nothing to do with the rings. All the rings and stuff came because of his mentality. I just think nobody after him, it was Kobe, but nobody had that mentality of Jordan. You know, he always knew he was the best player on the court. He never gave anybody else an opportunity to say they were the best player. And like I said, he was a killer. Like it don't matter what the situation was in the game. If it was the last shot, you knew Jordan was going to have the ball. I don't care what the play was. Like, everybody doesn't have that. I think LeBron is a well-rounded player, but that doesn't mean he's the best player. Jordan did the same thing in his last couple of years where, you know, he distributed the ball as well, score, defend. He did everything too. And I think people are just too young that they didn't really study Jordan to know the impact he had on the game. But yeah, I don't even think it's close.
Would you say LeBron is the second greatest of all time or no?
I think he's in the top 3, but I don't want to disrespect the older generation too. Like, you know, the Will Chamberlains and Kareems. Like, I haven't studied their game, so I can't really speak on it. But I think LeBron is definitely a top 3. But Jordan is number 1 for sure.
Are you enjoying the Last Dance documentary? Yeah,
somebody tried to ruin it and send me all the episodes early, but I'm gonna wait every Sunday to watch 2 episodes at a time. But yeah, it just gives insight on a different part of that Bulls team that people didn't know about.
Well, that was it. Malcolm, if you don't have anything else to add, thank you so much for joining us and for staying overtime. I truly appreciate it. You know, happy birthday to your brother, and I guess we'll talk soon.
All right, man. Appreciate it.